So it all comes down to this, Harry Littman, the election just days away, and the gambit from Donald Trump is putting it all on the line, trying to delay everything until right after the election. So there will either be a massive tsunami of accountability coming Donald Trump's way shortly after the election, or there's going to be the opposite of that, and pretty much all the state cases will be stayed. The federal cases will almost immediately, I think, go away. I want to get your take there. But we're seeing the contours of that both in the Washington, D.C. federal criminal case against Donald Trump for his conduct relating to the insurrection and the lead up to the insurrection and thereafter. The case that was previously before Judge Cannon that she dismissed on those unprecedented grounds that special counsels don't exist, is what she said. That's now with the 11th Circuit. Donald Trump filed his appellate response brief in this past week. I want to go through all of that. I want to remind everybody to subscribe to Harry Littman's YouTube channel, the Talking Feds YouTube channel, which has experienced meteoric growth over the past year, but that needs to keep on growing because no matter what happens after the election, so important to have good data, good information, good analysis, and Harry is the best. So, Harry, you wrote an op-ed in the LA Times about this, essentially with the headline. It really is all on the line with all of these cases. Donald Trump either spending the rest of his life in jail with accountability or at home arrest or whatever, or he's gonna get out of this. All of his crimes will, he'll skate free. So talk to us about the op-ed. How do you assess this? And maybe we could go one by one and talk about the different cases.
Yeah, sure. And good as always to be here, Ben. So it's really true. He's got a tsunami coming at him where he will be a perpetual, I think, till the end of his days, defendant or convict. The two federal cases that he is facing, one of them has a guideline sentence of 20 years. The other can't be less than all the marauders get, and that's many years, etc. But if I can extend the metaphor, if he wins on Tuesday, he is Poseidon, and he points his trident at the tsunami, and it just goes to nothing. So if he is the head of the executive branch, there's no legal maneuvering, there's no can he pardon himself. He simply says, I'm the head of the DOJ, especially the way he will construe it. Fellas, we're done with this. He's already said he would fire Matt Smith in 2 seconds, and he would just say, those cases that you broad styled, U.S. versus Trump, guess what? They are finished. File something with the court saying they're dismissed. All right, what if he doesn't, though? So look, we have just briefly going through it in the January 6th case where, interestingly, he's still trying to delay. He already got Chutkan to put it like after the election, and he filed again this week in an effort to make it yet later. That's at least consistent with a plan on his part to be working all kinds of mischief, not just up to the election, but in the days after, those really delicate days where if we're going to see a tsunami, if I can stick with the word of litigation, that's when we're going to see it, between Election Day and the 34 days until December 11th when governors are supposed to certify. But the January 6th case, it's going to take forever and be laborious to figure out what is immune and what isn't. It'll go up and down at least once to the Supreme Court. Everyone assumes, but at the end of the day, there's going to be a ruling. This stuff is okay. And whether it's this or this, that's going to be a corpus of facts that are going to be enough to convict him. It seems pretty clear to me. Back to Cannon, you're right. Trump filed his response, I should say, and then in 2 weeks, about a week and a half from now, Smith will respond to that, and then it'll be up to the 11th Circuit. But we're talking about a ruling on Cannon's part that seems to just fly in the face of Supreme Court precedent. An interesting part of the briefs, Smith led with, this is what Nixon says, you cannot do it. Trump goes through 50 pages and then a little bit at the end about why the Nixon statement is actually just dictum, lawyer words for not essential to the holding, so you can't really go for it. I don't see the 11th Circuit seizing on that ruling, and I see them as probably reversing. And then the big question will be, do they think about recusing her? But those two big ticket items, they are, if he loses, they're going to happen. No one's going to, we're going to have new leadership of the Department of Justice, but no one's going to fire Jack Smith. The law grinds slowly, but it will grind away. And then there'll be the New York sentencing, November 25th. Not a long sentence, but even probation really impinges on Trump's liberty. There are things he has to say pretty please for when he's been used to doing whatever he wants. Let's assume that Fulton County is just a mess and they're never going to put the pieces back together again. Even so, there is New York, and that's happening right away. Then the big federal cases, which will be fired up. And it's not at all unlikely that he become one of the defendants in some of the state cases that are brewing out there about false electors, and he's been named in some of them. So yeah, I think he chooses, the tiger door, and he is a defendant or convict for all his life, unless I'll do a little asterisk at the very end. He chooses the lady, and they all dry up. Even the New York case, I think the courts would say, you can't do this while somebody's president. A state court, doesn't matter how righteous it is, you can't come in and arrest or otherwise incapacitate a president. So even that gets delayed 4 years. Just back quickly to the asterisk. All this sort of gyrations to be sure we keep things depoliticized, starting with Garland. You could see a world, it's really the world of Nixon and Ford, where there's a grander kind of resolution where essentially Trump doesn't have to go to jail, but he has to go away forever. And that would potentially involve, and this is already, you see this in certain editorials and stuff, a pardon from Harris. But Trump would have to play ball for that and say, okay, but I'm gone forever. And who could ever trust him? And would he do it anyway? I mean, even assuming he loses the election, you still got to think he'll be the most powerful person in the Republican Party and still want to be exercising his power. So he doesn't seem to be someone who'd be open to that. And without some kind of extra outside of the system resolution, he's looking at either a lifetime as a defendant and in pinstripes, or a big bet that he wins and almost everything goes away to just about nothing.
We've seen the law actually bend for Donald Trump. I mean, the new law has been created. If you were teaching a law class, in 2016, which you do, and these fact scenarios came before you, any legal scholar, any student of the Constitution would tell you that what's occurred could not happen in these United States of America. Right. And here you and I are talking about scenarios where Trump has, in many ways, no matter what happens, really took a sledgehammer to the Constitution and one of the core concepts that nobody is above the law, that's been shattered almost regardless of the outcome. And, that's one of the fundamental principles. So, I think that when I say for people to subscribe to Talking Feds YouTube, I'm hopeful and optimistic about a Vice President Kamala Harris victory, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I don't want to get overconfident. I suggest no one does get to work over this weekend. But regardless, what's needed, though, is to rebuild these institutions, right? And so I think that we all play a part in that, and that's going to something that we're all going to have to do is rebuild what this guy has shattered. He's broken the foundation, at least in my view, of the legal system.
And when you think about it, Ben, the Supreme Court, we've got 3 justices who'll be serving, for 30 years. And of course, if he wins, I think we see a fairly prompt resignation by Thomas and Alito. Query whether, if the Dems control the Senate, which is not looking very likely now, they do the same freeze out game as Mitch McConnell did with Garland. But then also the Republican Party, every reasonable person has been sort of purged. It's just by way of saying that you're exactly right. A Trump loss doesn't begin to do the reworking. Let's just, I believe somewhere down the line, the Supreme Court will recognize a right to abortion. We will not be out of step with the entire civilized world that way. But we're talking a generation and the work of kind of reanimating the political system so there are two viable parties, and as doing the best we can to repair the notion of executive power so it's not edging toward autocracy as it is now. That's the work, I'm so sorry to say, of years, if not a generation. I think it will be done, but it's not as with other political events that the good guys win or the bad guy, whoever it is. And then as of that day, things change. He has done damage that's going to be the work of years and hard work to undo.
There you have it. Everybody, subscribe to the Talking Feds YouTube channel right now. I need to see that channel get 500,000 subscribers. Then I want to see it get 1 million subscribers. I'm confident it will, and we got to keep building that. So make sure you subscribe right now. Thanks, Harry.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.